All right, looks like we have a lot of attendees that have joined us, and others may still join us here as we get moving forward. But good afternoon. My name is Eric Martz. I'm the ASHE Harrisburg president for this year, and I would like to wish everyone a happy Engineers Week. Thank you for attending this section meeting today. We have an excellent presentation today from 4 Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission engineering managers. So I would like to make a few announcements before then, if you don't mind. So first, I know we invited some ASHE national board members to this meeting. Do we have any national board members in attendance? If so, unmute yourself and let us know. All right, if not, thank you. I was going to give them an opportunity to speak if they want to. Before we start the presentation, I would like to make several announcements. Our next virtual section meeting will be held on March 22nd at noon, and our speaker will be Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission CEO Mark Compton. During normal years, Mark speaks to our section at Trogues Brewery in Hershey. Unfortunately, we cannot gather at Trogues this year, so the meeting will be virtual. Registration information will be forthcoming via email soon. The annual joint workshop between PennDOT District 8, the PA Turnpike Commission, and ASHE Harrisburg that is normally held in April has been postponed until post-COVID. Therefore, we are open to ideas for a virtual section meeting in April. Please contact me or another ASHE Harrisburg board member if you have a meeting suggestion. The ASHE Harrisburg board is exploring ideas for virtual meetings in May to honor our past presidents and in June to honor scholarship recipients and Project of the Year award winners. So please stay tuned for information regarding those upcoming meetings. The ASHE Harrisburg scholarship application process is underway. Second Vice President Jason Hirsch is overseeing the scholarship process this year. I would like to thank him and others for bringing fresh ideas to this process. A video was developed to encourage potential applicants to apply for a scholarship. The video and scholarship information can be found on our website under the Scholarship tab. Scholarship applications are due by no later than April 2nd and can be submitted this year online or via hard copy by regular mail. And another exciting new item is ASHE Harrisburg now has a YouTube channel. Visit youtube.com and search for ASHE Harrisburg to subscribe to the channel. Current content includes the scholarship video that I mentioned and video recordings of our section meetings from November 2020 and January 2021. I want to also remind section members to vote for the 2021-2022 director positions if you have not done so already. Please see the email on February 17th from Section Administrator Nick Vereb with a link for voting. We are fortunate to have 8 excellent candidates to fill 5 open director positions. Voting ends on March 12th at noon, and remember, you can only vote once. I would like to also congratulate the Central Pennsylvania Engineers Week Council Award winners. ASHE Harrisburg member Mike Kaiser was selected as the Engineer of the Year, and ASHE Harrisburg member Chad Martin was selected as Young Engineer of the Year. Congratulations, gentlemen, well deserved. The award winners will be honored this evening during the Central PA Engineers Week Council virtual banquet that starts at 6 p.m. So thank you for those announcements, or allow me to provide those announcements. So now I would like to introduce our speakers for the day. We are fortunate to have the following Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission engineering managers present today. Matt Burd, PE, is the Interchange and Special Project Manager. Kevin Scheurich, PE, is the Total Reconstruction Manager. Kevin would like me to remind the audience that he is the most handsome of the 4 presenters, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Charles Buchanan, PE, is the Roadway Engineering Manager. And Jim Stump, PE, is the Bridge Engineering Manager. Jim and I hail from the same hometown of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, and given that he is a bridge engineer, obviously he's the most intelligent of the 4. So with that announcements, Kevin, I would like to hand it over to Matt and the other presenters.
I guess it's time for me to take over, Kev. Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Happy.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Eric said, my name is Matt Burd. I'm the Interchange Special Project Manager at the Commission. I guess before I get into my presentation, a couple things. I'm in a bit of a high traffic area in my house, so if you happen to see or hear things, I apologize. It's unfortunately a side effect of the virtual world. And also, I think with Mr. Compton's presentation, since you can't be at Trogs, it's probably okay to have a Trogs with you during the presentation. But I'm not an ASHI member, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but I'm guessing it'd be fine. But anyhow, get going into my project here. The Turnpike Interchange Special Projects Unit. Who are we? Me, I'm in charge of the group, and then the 3 project managers. Many of you are probably familiar with them. Mark Raup, PE, Greg Bednar, PE, he's out of our Western Regional Office, and Muhammad. And what do we, what projects do we do? Well, for the interchange portion, we do any kind of new interchange construction, such as the I-95 interchange, the new Lafayette Street interchange that's in design, Scranton Beltway, and any new slip ramps and things like that. We also do any reconfiguration of existing interchanges. But what we don't do is resurfacing and the general maintenance. That falls into Charles's group. One of our big projects is the I-95 interchange, which actually the entire project stretches from our exit 351, which used to be Philadelphia, all the way to the Delaware River Bridge, and includes a new connection with I-95. 2 sets of flyover ramps from I-95 north, which basically connected the missing link on the entire east coast for I-95, making it a one complete roadway. It does also include the replacement of the Delaware River Bridge. This is just a picture of those flyover ramps. This is the walleye version, or the fisheye version, whatever you want to call it. But to the right of the screen is I-95, and then to the left is the Turnpike. You can barely see the Delaware River Bridge to the screen on the far left. So Mark Raup is the PE for that entire project, which is a massive undertaking, and under his direction, it's moved along real well and making good progress. So this was a big chunk, and the Delaware River Bridge is the next real big thing going on. So at least to get started in design. The Lafayette Street interchange at milepost 331. That's part of the Montgomery County Lafayette Street Improvement Project. To get from Norristown out to the Turnpike, and then to help revitalize Norristown with an access point there. One of the early things that has to happen before we can build our interchange is for Montgomery County to replace the Ridge Pike Bridge over the Turnpike prior to us going to construction, to allow for ramps basically to fit underneath it. Our project manager for the PTC is Muhammad, and the prime designer is KCI. The preliminary design for that project is almost complete, with an anticipated advertisement somewhere in 2024 if things go well. The Ridge Pike project actually had a public meeting last night, so they are kind of getting moving into their final designs. So hopefully they'll be out about a year ahead of us, and we're hoping to have our public meeting then later this year. Another interchange project is Scranton Beltway. That's on the northeast extension up in and around Scranton, where we actually are going to have 2 connections to Interstate 81 off of the northeast extension. One will be the Wyoming Valley interchange at the bottom of the graphic shown there. This is just before you get up by the airport in Scranton. The roads are parallel to the point where they're maybe 100 feet apart or so, and we're gonna have a connection there, and then a correct connection up at the very end of the northeast extension at Clark Summit and Interstate 81, where again the roads go tie into each other. So there'll be a direct connection, and the hope is when there's any congestion on 81 or even on the northeast extension, there'll be a quick alternate route to go around Scranton, can keep you out of the congestion. The PM for that is Mark Raup, and this is going to get picked up here in pace in the next month or two. So Probably the bigger question is, what is a special project? And these are our expansions, which are the big chunks, the Southern Beltway, out around Pittsburgh from the airport that's supposed to end up at the Monfayette Expressway. And then the Monfayette Expressway itself, which ultimately will go from Morgantown, West Virginia, up to I-376 near Monroeville. If any of you guys are familiar with the Pittsburgh area, it'll be right near the I just lost my train of thought there. Sorry. It's just north of where the mall is in Monroeville, but it'll tie into the express, the I-376 up there. So it also is any other projects that don't fit neatly into other categories. The Turnpike fiber project, we're installing fiber along the Turnpike for our use and for some possible commercialization, is one of our big projects in that group. Neil Raup, who has retired from the commission but is still on as an advisory role, and Wally Weimer heading it up through design, and Steve Dale's been involved with that as well for the commission. Another big project is our all electronic tolling, which is being handled all by Don Steele, which I'm sure many of you know him as well. That's a pretty big undertaking, especially now we're in an all electronic environment as it is. So one of the big projects, as I mentioned, was the Southern Beltway. Right now, we have a 14-mile stretch from Route 22 to I-79 currently under construction. It'll have 4 new interchanges, including one with Interstate 79 and the completion of the one at Route 22, a new maintenance shed, and it will feature open road tolling. There are no toll booths at interchanges anymore. We put out a project, I think it was 2 years ago, to convert the Finley connector, which is from the airport to Route 22, and was already open to traffic from tolling booths on the ramps to an open road gantry there as well. There's actually going to be two gantries on the expansion under construction. So the total construction cost of that is $690 million and is slated to open in fall of 2021, actually October. And it's been a pretty long construction progress, but it's been pretty interesting to see. The next few slides are going to be from the Southern Beltway construction. This is the overview map. Route 22 interchange is right here to the far left of the screen, where it says 55A1. We move along the diamonds of the tolling gantries, an interchange with Beach Hollow Road, and then an interchange with Fort Cherry Connector, which is a new connector road we built. Another tolling gantry just east of the Borough McDonald, and then an interchange with Route 50, which entailed a connector road as well. And our maintenance shed is going to be in this vicinity as well, and then the full interchange with I-79. So I'll get into the photos, which are kind of the fun part to look at. The top left photo here is the Route 22 interchange looking east. So to the left of the screen where it says CDR McGuire, that is the existing Route 22, or existing Finley connector, I'm sorry, where it ended at Route 22, and then to the right is the expressway. And just for everyone's information, CDR McGuire is the construction manager for the project, and they provided the photos with them, so that's why you'll see their logo. Next section is in 55C11. It's a local road where there's now a bridge over an expressway where there's no need for a bridge before. This photo is of our bridge over Route 980. It's about 100 feet in the air. This is SR 980, kind of going from the top left to bottom right. Pretty impressive structure to see from the ground, let alone from the air. The next one is our 55A1 project with this curved girder bridge across Johns Avenue, Noblestown Road, and then 2 trails and a railroad. There's 6 sets of piers. It's a pretty impressive structure to be built and to see being built. And then this is the interchange with Interstate 79. As you can see, the interstate's running kind of from the bottom left towards the top right of the screen, and the the southern beltway is to the upper left part of the screen. Come to the right, and this is where the grading is going on here. Where we go under I-79, we actually had to basically punch a hole underneath it and then construct the bridges. So we shifted traffic, excavated, built the new bridge, moved traffic to where it is now. You see in this picture, and then finished, cutting the hole through there so they could do all the fine grading for the expressway. And the last photo is the looking from the south to the north towards that same interchange. You can see that where it loops around to the left-hand side of the screen, where it's rough graded in to head north on I-79, and the northbound I-79 exit coming to the left of the screen as well. And then in the upper right again is the bridge over I-79 that we just had a nice close look at. So it's a pretty impressive project. It's really something to see it come along, especially during construction. The other big expansion project we have going on is the Montfayette Expressway project. Currently, we're in design from Route 51 to Duquesne. The Route 51 exit is in Jefferson Hills and where the expressway currently ends. The intent is to end up in Monroeville, but for now, the funding gets us up through the city of Duquesne, basically to the Mon River. Again, it's the first advertisement is slated for spring of 2022. This is an 8-mile stretch of construction. There'll be we will finish the full interchange at Route 51, build a new full interchange in Rosburg, a partial interchange in Rosburg, and a partial interchange in Duquesne. The one in Duquesne will eventually be a full interchange when the expressway gets completed, to the north. But for now, there's no reason to build the ramps that coming from the south and to the north, because there's nowhere to go to or come from. So the total construction cost right now is estimated at $905 million. There is a massive amount of right-of-way claims with over 250 needed to be acquired, properties needed acquisitions, and major utility relocations, which actually includes 27 of the large Duquesne Lake transmission towers, which they're actually in sets of 3 along the expressway, and we've had to move. When you move them, you end up moving 3 at a time. So we end up moving 27 towers. The cost for utilities alone is over $100 million. So these expansion projects basically come from what's called the independently funded program, rather than our capital plan. We had Act 61 of 1985 designated the projects that were going to be built out of this independently funded program, and the funding comes from oil franchise tax, and then it funds both Montfayette and Southern Beltway. In 1991, Act 26, the funding stream was increased by the PA legislator to allow more of these projects to move forward. Unlike the capital plan, though, the independently funded plan works more like a checkbook. You need to keep your balance above 0. So we don't bond much for any of these projects. It all comes from basically a balance that builds up. We spend it down, it builds back up. So that's how that funding stream works, and it's definitely different than our capital plan. Future projects for this will be the Montfayette northern section, which we're hoping to start design as we start to get into the construction of the southern section. And then eventually the Southern Beltway to extend from I-79 to the Montfayette Expressway. There's actually a whole lot of list of other projects on that Act 61 legislature, but those are the ones that have already had a bit of a look to them, if you will. Another thing I was going to talk about was, for our group, our consultant expectations, and what we look for from consultants. Number one is communication. Between the PTC and the design PM, or if you're design manager, you guys need to be in frequent communication. We'd recommend scheduling update calls, weekly emails, things like that, so there aren't any surprises, and our guys and your guys are all on the same page. The other thing I really look for is how you guys approach design issues. We expect the designers, design manager, people in the design team to identify these problems, but then also provide a list of options, the pros and cons, comparing these pros and cons for cost, time, impact, and then provide a recommendation as to which one you think's the best and why, and maybe why the other ones didn't measure up. The bottom line is we'd really, when we run into design issues, we're looking for you to be proactive to finding solutions, not coming to us saying, well, here's a problem, what should we look at, or how do you want us to fix it? Kind of take the bull by the horns there and, come up with solutions and bring them to us so we can talk about them. And then the last thing is QA, QC, and there's gonna be a little bit more discussion about that as we move on, but it's really important that everything gets QA, QC'd. It's needed to reduce the possibility of design errors and omissions. And we are typically including hours in our proposals to allow for the QA, QC process. But it is the responsibility of the consultants to complete that on their own. Quality. The commission last year started what was called the Design Quality Initiative. And it was to help improve the quality of our submissions and plans. The biggest thing about quality is it is everyone's responsibility. Quality is the designer's responsibility. Quality is the design manager's responsibility. Quality is the construction manager's responsibility. Quality is the construction inspector's responsibility. And finally, quality is the project manager's responsibility. It's not just one person or one group. It's up to everybody working together to come up with quality projects. So we put together this DQI committee. It was led by the steering committee, which the assistant chief engineer was in charge. That's, as you guys I'm sure are aware, Gary Graham. And then there were four subcommittees, one for design review process, one for review process itself, one for resources, and one for our staff development. So out of this DQI committees, several improvements have come out and will be implemented into our work. Technical training for project managers, improved training program for trainees. These are for PTC personnel. We're developing a Tech Talk series so that we can have instruction, for our folks. One of the big design changes is going to be requiring a 75% design submission, and then defining the pre-final, pre-PS&E process. We're going to require earlier constructability reviews. We're improving the reference library. We're working on determining our required staffing levels and technology needs, and developing a mentoring program at the commission. If you're looking for more information on this, we have information on our quality improvement website, which is located at the address shown below there. I'm going to talk about the 75% commission submission process, as that was part of our the group that I was in charge of for the DQI. I'm going to give you a broad overview, as there's a lot to it, but I think this will kind of get you the flavor of what's going on. First of all, it's going to eliminate the 60% submission. So it's not just another added submission into the process. The 60% is going to be replaced with a 60% over-the-shoulder review. So when you get to about that spot in the plan, you'll stop and plot the plan set and review it at the DRM. The intent is to have the designer walk through their design, talk through interesting different aspects, things that need discussed, and kind of move forward on from that point towards a 75% submission. The 75% submission itself is going to include an estimate, a better estimate than you get at 60%. It's going to include specs and details, plans, and the whole shooting match, really. What this will do basically is allow us to do a better constructability review at this point, and still allow time for anything that might come out of that review or any changes to be implemented. It also gives us a chance to look at least the spec outline. So we won't be expecting, specs to be done to 90%, but the pieces of the puzzle need to be there. The item number, pay quantity, things like that. So there's a lot of information, a lot more information will be available, but it will also allow for a smoother transition, or a smoother move from that 75% to your PS&E package. This implementation is forthcoming probably within the next couple months. Right now, we are actually already using this on the Lafayette Expressway, and we began developing it during the later stages of the Southern Beltway. So, look forward to that coming out in the near future. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Matt. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, I think we're ready to rock. My name is Kevin Scheurich. I'm the Total Reconstruction Program Manager, and I just started in the October timeframe here. I remember about that time we had a meeting in person, and I was having some trouble there because I didn't fit into any of my dress shirts. So I am happy to report now that I fit into 20% of my dress shirts, 50% better. So I was just waiting for all the virtual laughs there. I gave a presentation last week, and Gary Graham told me, he said, Kevin, don't worry when you're giving a presentation. If you don't get any laughs, it's a function of the virtual setting. And I was thinking to myself, Gary, it's not a whole lot different in the in-person setting either. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to emphasize when I came into the program here was really teamwork. It's a huge program. It takes a lot of communication and coordination to get everything done. And I wanted to make sure that everybody was included in the process, not that we're always going to agree on everything, but included in the process so that we're all making collective decisions together. We hold bi-weekly project manager meetings, similar to what consultant teams might do for like a weekly or bi-weekly meetings to kind of get everybody in order and say, here's what we need to do for the next couple of weeks. We talk about anything on the 5-quarter letting schedule, any project issues that we have, coordinate permitting, HOPs so that we're not stepping on each other's toes or working in a vacuum. We also coordinate schedules when we're going to review things, workload distributions in case anybody happens to need any help at the time, and then really just trying to telegraph what we're doing in the program. So that was kind of new. We started that in November, and I feel like that's been going really, really well. We always seem to have an abundance of things to talk about and not enough time. We are going to implement that with our design managers as well and start doing those quarterly with our first one starting in March. And then we're also trying to communicate to all of our business partners, whether they be a designer, design manager, or even our own Turnpike staff. So we created a Teams for Business Partners site where we can disseminate information. The next big initiative was quality. We were seeing, I think, a lot of things kind of go out the door here, and I was on one of the subcommittees of the design quality initiative that Matt mentioned. And on the subcommittee, there was like 8 to 10 of us. And the question I kept getting at the beginning was, why are we doing this? Aren't we paying our designers and design managers a lot of money to ensure that we're getting a high quality product? And the answer was, yeah, we are. But have you ever had something go out where you look at it and you're like, it's a huge mistake, and had I taken an hour or two to look at this project, it could have been avoided? It doesn't feel good. So I think we're trying to kind of refocus our efforts on internally and say that, look, we need to take some accountability, responsibility, and ownership in what we're doing here. So a couple of things to do that. We're going to include all of our project managers on major reviews going forward. And the instructions are really, if you have time to look at a project that's not yours, absolutely. If you can spend an hour and avoid a $50,000 designer, that's time well spent in my mind. And if you don't have time, it's not mandatory. The second bullet would be that both I and the assistant total reconstruction manager will be looking through all the comments and doing a QA/QC. And we're also just going to ensure that we're only going to be addressing really the value added comments. So comments that we don't feel add a lot of value. We're going to try to not burden our design team with addressing that. We share lessons learned at the biweekly PM meetings, as well as design errors and omissions in hopes that we're not making the same mistakes and that we can learn from each other. The next big topic I'd like to talk about is funding, and I have a few slides here to go through next. So in 2016, well, let me back up. In 2006, we did our first long-range plan. And I guess that was pretty much in the infancy of the total reconstruction program that started back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we hadn't updated again until 2016, but a lot of things changed from then until now. So in 2016, there were 4 different plan options, and one of them was like a really high performance-driven level. And then kind of at the bottom was a protection-driven level. And really what that was doing was balancing our needs for the capital plan as well as our debt burden. And what we actually chose was the lowest of the 4 rungs, the protection-driven plan. And our target was to hit about $245 million a year. But you can see in fiscal years 2018, 19, 20, and 21, it doesn't appear that we came very close to the target in any of those years. Our fiscal year 2021 capital plan was kind of unusual in that, as we were supposed to be doing the planning for it, COVID hit, and then that kind of was paused. So a little bit unique here, but really we plan our program 10 years out. And so as you can see here, really, we're not hitting that target again until about year 2027. So really, think about it, it's almost a decade of not hitting the benchmark here. And the other thing I wanted to point out with the program here is that we're trying to come up with like a more predictable program so that we're not having, 1 year with a lot of funding and then the next year or 2 with half of the funding and then doubling it, because it's really hard to start and stop projects of this magnitude, and it really needs to kind of be a smoother, more linear curve here. The next slide is anytime in any of the 10-year capital plans that we mentioned the fiscal year 2019. So you can see in 2010, we're up close to 200 million, and then 2011, we're down to 150. And again, that's the 2010 and 2011 10-year capital plan, where we mentioned what the funding is supposed to be, or what we think it's going to be in fiscal year 2019. And the reason that I bring this up is just to see how good or not good we are at planning out in the future. And it gets pretty erratic here as we go through the years 2012 to 14 to 16 to 17, but then a little bit better as we get closer. And so we want to make sure that, again, we're predicting the future there as best we can, and adapting to some of the unique circumstances that we've had lately. And that way that we're not having complete changes to our capital plan and program every year, because it's really hard to adapt, like I said, when we're shifting the funding around so much. And then this is a table out of the proposed 2021 long-range plan that we're doing. So we recognize that with our funding constraints now, we really need to start taking a hard look at how we get everything done between all of our different categories in the highway program and elsewhere. And at the current level rate, at about 4 miles of total reconstruction a year, it would take about 65 years to complete phase 1 of the reconstruction program, which we know is not going to cut it. So we think where we might end up is around the 7 to 10 mile a year range to get it done between, as you can see, the 37 and 26 miles. But again, when you get that done, you have to go back and start redoing some of the stuff you touched at the beginning of phase 1 and getting into phase 2 here. So, and then we have the unconstrained program on here just to to show you for presentation purposes. I think what that amounts to in present value dollars, that the recommended is about 35 million a mile is what we're shooting for. So maybe around a $350 million range, give or take. Of course, it will take some time to get there, and it's still being ironed out, and there's other priorities in the capital program there as well. Design project restarts. We had restarted a handful of projects in January, and February, I guess, is almost over. And then March, we're doing a few more. Most of them are total reconstructions. And then there's a couple interchange, Lafayette Street interchange and the Scranton Beltway that are in Matt's group. So, we recognize that the consultant community, we believe, has the current capacity to get this done, and we're trying to capitalize on that and really start getting some of our total reconstructions into as shovel-ready a position as they can be for project delivery. And then we also redid the Northeast Extension phasing. So this was from the fiscal year 21 plan, and the next slide I would show would be from the proposed fiscal year 22 plan. And I'm just going to go back and forth here. Obviously, you can see that we cut off about 4 or 5 fiscal years by rephasing it appropriately to get as far up as we can get up there. So the last slide I'd like to present is that we are looking to move the milepost 324 to 326 project into construction, pending that we have funding available. We're moving that and both the Hawk Falls Bridge forward right now, which Jim Stump will talk about later. And the idea is that we're getting really good bids right now. There's not a whole lot out in construction, and we feel like we have the ability to do one or both of those projects. And if we don't do them now, who knows when we will do them. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Charles Buchanan.
Thank you, Kevin. So I am Charles Buchanan. I am the roadway engineering manager. So just a quick rundown. If I can get my slideshow, there we go. What does the roadway unit do inside engineering design? We really monitor the overall system-wide pavement condition to maintain a high-quality ride surface for all the paying Turnpike customers. We're responsible for the timely development of all the resurfacing programs, the pavement rehab projects, routine repair, and miscellaneous highway design. Anything that addresses customer safety, minimizes customer impacts, and we follow all the current design standards too, or ensure that all the other units are following current design standards. We also collect the automated data annually. We complete pavement condition reviews on a biannual basis. So my staff runs the system twice a year, and we do manual pavement inspections that way. That really, all that data drives the development and prioritization of our reconstruction, rehabilitation, resurfacing, and all our routine pavement repairs, even from our open ends that are kind of tweener construction contracts between what our maintenance department can handle and what our resurfacing projects plan to do. We provide guidance to all the other projects out there on the highway capital plan concerning, roadway construction, horizontal, vertical alignment, super elevation, pavement design, drainage, barrier, guide rail, and just overall roadway safety. And the plan presentation is also under our purview. We manage both the roadway safety program, which is all our resurfacing, barrier, guide rail kind of projects. And then we also oversee the miscellaneous program. So if it doesn't neatly fall within roadway safety, bridge, or total reconstruction, it gets lumped into what we term as the miscellaneous program. So that's our geotechnical, that's our stormwater MS4, environmental monitoring, and our traffic engineering stuff. And then Roadway also maintains and updates all the PTS 100 roadway standard drawings and all the roadway related special provisions and specs for our projects. Incorporated inside Roadway is also the engineering automation group. This is our in-house CAD and drafting department and our GIS, engineering GIS folks. We maintain the CAD, BIM, survey standards, as-built drawings is a huge lift for us. All the mapping, our records retention process, and then we also provide all the graphic design and support for other Turnpike departments. That unit also serves as our kind of between our IT department and engineering. Recently, our right-of-way survey group was transitioned to our roadway unit. So they really have two primary functions right now. Surveys and mapping. So they assist in determining all the ways to acquire mapping for projects, be it aerial mapping, LiDAR mapping, mobile LiDAR, or conventional field survey. They also do complete field surveys for in-house projects. Sometimes it's just quicker to have internal staff go out and take a quick couple shots to determine what's going on to see where we need to head a repair. They also oversee all the right-of-way plat presentations and development of the plans and legal descriptions that then go up to our legal department to actually acquire that right-of-way for our construction projects. Probably the two big things that happened in 2020 in Roadway, we saw two subunit reorganizations. Our roadway site unit that saw our stormwater management and our MS4 program, they were transitioned from roadway to environmental planning unit as a little better fit. With the MS4, it's more of an environmental issue anymore than just standard stormwater management ponds that a lot of us grew up designing. And then right-of-way survey was transitioned into the roadway unit also. I just wanted to cover real quick, request for commission information. So this is request for right-of-way or as-built drawings. Usually the easiest way to get these is to go through a request to know. So on the Turnpike's main website, if you go all the way to the very bottom, there is a request to know. Sorry. So then it takes you to this page where you can fill out your information to acquire those plans or documentations. You heard a lot about funding already, but I deal with a lot of funding versus life cycle issues. The upper right there is some pavement that we had that was starting to rut last year. So we did some pavement cores to try to figure out exactly what was causing this. The middle up there in the top is some rutting pavement that we actually have out in the system right now that we're working to get repaired as soon as the weather breaks out west. The top right, just one of the many things that we deal with in roadway. That's an accident. It was a truck fire, burned up the shoulder right lane and actually went into the left lane. So we do all the coordination between construction and our materials folks to see what needs to be repaired and then get it repaired. The bottom right is really just, it's the funding battle that we all deal with. We're all vying for that same money that comes in. So, Jim, Stump, and I are always duking it out of who gets the bigger slice of the pie. Roadway is usually the one that, we have to flex a little more. If a reconstruction is planned for a certain year and they have permitting issues or right-of-way issues and it slides 3 years, we got to still get in there and maintain that road. So we have to be very flexible with our overall program. That does take us into, how we run our long-range planning out of roadway. We have a 10-year plan that we update about twice a year, depending on what reconstruction and bridge with their bigger bridges and Matt are doing. So this is just a snapshot of our District 2. This takes us out through 2027 on this view. But we block out, where we are anticipating total reconstructions to be or bridge projects to be, so that we know that we can't anticipate to be milling and paving in the same area in that calendar year, so that we have to start making the decisions. Do we mill and pave an area early, or do we try to patch it and push it for a year or two and come in after a project? This is probably a little better example. This is our District 5. This is the same area that Kevin was showing from the reconstructions perspective, going up to Lehigh Valley. So all these blue blocks are all the overhead bridges that, when they have mainline MPT, we can't be milling and paving through those projects. So we use these to block out, and then we figure out, how can we chop up, our mainline sections in order to maintain the highway for our customers. I do just want to touch base a little bit on digital delivery and where the Turnpike is heading with digital delivery. Right now, to date, we've created our master line, our master right-of-way files. We're working on our linear referencing system. So the difference between a mile post on a plan sheet versus a mile marker that is in the field that you would see out there, are they actually at the same station, or are they 50 feet apart, 100 feet apart, for correlation? We're doing LiDAR scans and creating our master pavement data files for agile assets. We've started to develop corridor and drainage models for our digital delivery. We've started to create our BIM technology standards, and we will be in a position to roll out compliance checking in a very short amount of time. And we are researching and going through our workflow of basically the file management system. Digital delivery between now and 2023. So we've kind of set the benchmark at 2023 to be at the point where we can issue digital delivery. We're going to continue to develop our corridor and drainage models, move into the full integration of our file management system, develop the ways to, how do we review digital models? If we're not getting plan sheets to do a 75% review of, how are we going to review plans moving forward? To do that, we've started 4 pilot projects over 2 phases. Our first pilot project for digital delivery is an access ramp up on the Northeast Extension. So cradle to grave, we're building 3D models to take that to construction. Our phase 2 of our digital delivery projects are a second set of access ramps in the middle of the state, an overhead bridge, and a maintenance facility. So we're bringing both the civil side and the vertical construction along as we advance to digital delivery. And again, our goal is to be in that position to go digital with the first project in 2023. With that, I will turn it over to Jim Stump.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. Obviously, you can tell that they did say the best for last. And equally, obviously, you can see that there's not a time left. So I guess, Eric, whenever you want me to stop for questions, just let me know. It'll be like the Oscars. You can start to sing or something like that, and I'll stop talking.
We don't have any time constraints, Jim, so please continue.
Great. Okay. I'm Jim Stump. I am the bridge engineer manager here at the Turnpike. I've been here for almost 29 years, and all in the bridge department. Just a little bit about the bridge department. We are currently down to just 8 folks. The department is split into 2 different divisions or 2 different groups. One side is the design, and obviously we do the standalone bridge projects, whether it's rehabs up to major replacements, or structure liaisons on projects outside of our department, total reconstruction, special projects, mill and paves. And we also do tunnel rehabs as well. On the operations side, it's bridge and tunnel inspections, review and approvals for overweight, overdimensioned vehicles. We manage our open-end bridge repair contracts that we put out annually. And then we coordinate all the various tunnel projects that are done within bridge and FEMA or facilities as well. Okay, let me, oh, holy cow, hold on a second, guys. There we go, that's much better. Just some random stuff. I'll go through these quickly. Yes, we're still working remote. The transition a year ago, which is hard to believe it's been a year ago, the transition was seamless, surprised me. I think upper management has been pleased with how it's gone. We have many more meetings, and usually you have a dog barking or somebody looking for that unmute button, and I'm guilty in both counts. In the bridge department, we had the year ago, the Turnpike had, or back in July, the Turnpike had a retirement program, and we had two folks from Bridge that retired, Bernie Zielinski and Ken Slippy. Between the two of them, they had 73 years of experience, and that's just so hard to replace. We have been relying or leaning on consultants and CMs to help bridge that gap with some of our tunnel projects, as well as the Lafayette and Southern Beltway projects. A little bit about funding. When COVID hit and started impacting our funding or revenue, Bridge was fortunate. We did not need to put any projects, design projects, on hold. We did have a couple let dates that got pushed a little bit, but all in all, we were pretty good shape. But what we haven't done is I normally have 5 or 6 bridges that I want to advertise in ECMS, but we have kind of paused on that temporarily. I'm hoping later 2021 we can start to advertise these again. So going forward, when do we go back? And the word on the street is June sometime. We follow the governor's directive. Will we be back full time? Hybrid? You know, who knows? It's to be determined. I have to say that I did not like the remote working at the start, and there's some days still that it little bothers me a little bit. But oh no, I think I'm really getting used to it, as a lot of other folks are now. So I'm not sure that people want to go back full time, but we'll see. We have a reopening committee that's working on a plan to get us back into the office. They've solicited feedback from our employees through surveys, and some things have to be figured out. Are we going to have core days when everybody needs to be in there, or as a manager, will I need to make sure I have coverage on each day? Stay tuned. So I mentioned that Bernie and Ken retired. Throughout engineering and construction, we had about 12 or so folks that did retire. Again, a lot of knowledge out the door, and we're not done yet. We're still kind of a senior staff. Next 5 years, a lot of people will be eligible to retire. Maybe myself as well. So we need to take steps to transition to a younger staff. We need to get the younger folks up to speed quickly. To help with this transfer of knowledge in Bridge, we include the younger guys in a lot of our project meetings. We sit down on a regular basis to talk about technical issues or concerns that have come up. We also sit down as a group to go through our specs, to see what changes need to be made. So again, it's a lot of group efforts on these different tasks. We have an engineer training program at the Turnpike. We've been about 10 to 15 years. We have recruited and developed a lot of quality good engineers, and we need to continue to do so. We have received approval to hire 3 more trainees, and we are going through that process right now. Job shadowing and mentoring, of course, we've been doing that. We need to continue to do that. And then there's an emphasis on training for our younger project managers. We do a little bit of in-house design, not much. We have set up some technical training, almost similar to a college course. The first module will be bridge design, and they will learn how to design a bridge from top down. All right, switching over to some bridge stuff. This is a snapshot of our bridges we have in our inventory. You can see the total number, the bridges that we inspect, our SD bridges, number and percentage. And yeah, I still use the term SD bridge. I'm old school. The percentage dipped down a little bit this year because we added 25 or so newer bridges from Southern Beltway, so that took a little drop. This has been a priority for us over the last 10 to 12 years, and we keep knocking this number down. Every time I think we've hit a stopping point or we bottomed out, we always manage to get a couple more off the list. And then lastly, you can see that of the 22 bridges, they're either being addressed in construction or in design. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our bigger bridges. Kevin mentioned the Hawk Falls Bridge coming out here maybe. This is up in the northeast, just south of Pocono Interchange. It's one of the 2 remaining deck trusses we have on the system. And of course, this is one of the ones that we're going to try to get out early. The last item that we need to clear is getting the right-of-way from the state park below. And that really has been a process. It really has. This is just a shot of the proposed bridge. It's going to be steel arch structure. This will be the first one for the Turnpike. And then this is a photo of, or a shot of the original bridge. It was built back in 1956. Interesting note about this bridge, Jeske and Masters designed the original bridge, and they are now designing the replacement bridge as well. Our big bridge down east, the Delaware River Bridge replacement. Matt had mentioned this earlier. This connects PA Turnpike to New Jersey Turnpike. It's jointly owned by both turnpikes. Pennsylvania is on this side, New Jersey on this side, and the limit of responsibility is right down the middle of the main span. This now carries I-95 across it, and this was the bridge that broke 4 years ago. Span 16 back here is where the fracture occurred. This bridge is part of the I-95 corridor enhancements, and both agencies have agreed to start to get this out to into design. So it is currently out for advertising for study, preliminary design, 20%. As you can see here, SOIs are due March 4th. And we really need to nail down an alignment. Are we going off alignment? Or are we staying on alignment? We're thinking this phase maybe 2 or 3 years in duration. And then once we decide on an alignment, the agencies will need to decide, are we going design build or design bid build? Lastly, the last major bridge out west, almost at the highest state line, Beaver River Bridge. This is the last of our deck trusses that we have. The new bridge will be just to the north of the existing bridge, and we will be reconfiguring the Beaver Valley Interchange back in the back. Proposed structure, it's a cast in place segmental. We have most things cleared out, but we're going through the environmental permitting process. And again, boy, that's a process, that's for sure. So let me switch over to tunnels a little bit. It's been a long process, but we finally are directing funding to the tunnels, tunnel rehabs. So we have Tuscarora Tunnel that's in construction right now. I'm just going to show you a couple construction photos, hit some high points. There's so much involved with these tunnel rehabs. I could talk for hours. But first, I'm going to ask you guys or give you a quiz. The blue panels that you see that are above the tubes, what is the purpose of those blue panels? They're not for ventilation. They're not for access. I will give you the answer a little bit later. So this is showing what's going on in the tube number 1, tunnel number 1. That's the eastbound tube. That was the one that was built back in the 30s. We've elected to remove the ceiling slab in this tunnel. Again, 1930s vintage, non-air and train concrete. Just a little concern with the condition of it. Once we have it cleared out down here in the bottom photo, we'll go ahead and be putting a waterproof membrane and shotcrete arch inside the arch. Now on this slide, there's a couple different things that's going on here. On the top left, we decided to remove the sidewalk that was on the inside face of the tunnel. This allows us two things. First of all, we can widen the lanes from 11.6 to almost 13 foot. And on the top right, we can utilize standard inlet configuration and eliminate the slot drains that are out there. And those slot drains have been a major maintenance headache over the years. The bottom two photos show in-pavement lighting to assist with keeping folks in their lane during crossovers and bi-directional traffic. Mixed reviews on this. Apparently folks have been swerving to miss the lights. I don't know if they think they're UFOs or what. Now that we got our first tunnel into construction, we want to keep going with the rest of the tunnels. Blue kit tunnels are in design, and we hope to get this bid once the Tuscarora Tunnel is done. And then the Lehigh Tunnel up in the northeast will be next. And we should be putting that out for advertisement in a year or two. Speaking of Lehigh Tunnel, at Lehigh and Allegheny tunnels, we have recently completed a lighting replacement. This project included replacing all the conduits, supports, hangers, so forth. Everything is stainless steel, and the lights are LED. And then last tunnel, but not least, is the Allegheny Tunnel bypass. This shows the existing alignment, and then the selected alignment goes to the south or to the west. And this shows kind of where we're at right now. We're working through the environmental documents. We're hoping to advertise for final design later this summer of 2021, and then start final design spring of 2022. Then to give you the answer to the quiz, when the original tunnels were built, when they were just a single tube, we put the name of the tunnel above the tube with backlighting, and so there was a hole in the tunnel facade. When we added the second tube, they just decided to put panels on the existing side and then do the same thing on the new side. So that's the purpose of those blue panels, just kind of fill in the holes. So when you're driving through the tunnels with your friends and family, you can impress them with that knowledge. And then the last slide here, this is just showing upcoming professional services contracts that we're hoping to get out this early part of this year. So with that, Eric, I am done, and I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. I want to thank all the presenters for an excellent presentation, some very good information. So thank you very much for taking the time to develop the presentation and providing it to us today. So I did open up the chat to see if anyone had any questions. I haven't seen any come through in chat, but if anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask a question of any of the presenters, please do so. And while we're waiting for that, I did have one question. This is probably for Kevin, one of your slides. When your 10-year capital plan slide, Kevin, it looked like there was a drop off kind of significant from, I believe it was years 2023 to 2025 before it rises again. Can you just give us maybe what the reason is for that drop off?
Yeah, Eric, it's really to balance the debt, you know, with if and when Act 44 sunsets here in 22, and we really hope that it does. And that's kind of when we hit our peak of paying our debt down, which is why it dropped so much. Usually what happens with the balance of debt is and our capital needs is it comes out of the reconstruction program. So that's really why that is, Eric. And then it, you know, obviously accelerates then and again in fiscal year 2026 there.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Again, you can enter them in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask. You guys must have covered everything they needed to know today, so great job. So with that, I just, again, want to thank you all for presenting to us today. Thank those in attendance for taking time out. And just remind everyone, we will be having Turnpike Commission CEO Mark Compton next month, and we will be sending out information via the website and by email very soon. So keep an eye out for that meeting registration information. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody again and say have a great week and a great weekend. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.